Sons was postponed the third game.
What's up? Welcome in, guys. Getting ready to get started here on the rundown. Appreciate you guys checking us out. If you could like the video. I fixed my camera so I don't look like I'm crazy now. I brought out the better camera, but now it's like shows more of my chunky face. Anyway, let's get after it. Here we go.
Well, we're waiting.
And welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. Got a lot of stuff we're going to get into today, just like we do every day. And it seems like every day I've got another, what appears to be a shocking development. Today's shocking development, Tracy Rocker, the defensive line coach for South Carolina, according to reports, has left the program. Yep, just left the program. So Coach Shane Beamer is going to need a new defensive line coach. You know what? When you really stop and look at it, it's the same thing that happened with yesterday. We were talking about, what was it, earlier this week? Mike Bobo is going somewhere else. Will Friend is apparently, has to go and work with Mike Bobo. So that's what we end up with there. But you know what? What's interesting about this? Coaches move around a lot. But the weird part with this is that it appears that Auburn looked at South Carolina last year, and South Carolina beat Auburn for the first time and Lord only knows how long. And they just decided, well, you know what? We're just going to go and get some of these coaches from South Carolina. That's what we'll do. We'll get in going that route as they pick up the guy that was part of a defense that, let's be honest, was disappointing for South Carolina. Now, I know people are going to say, but Rob, it was a pandemic. And Rob, it was this. And Rob, it was that. You know what? If I'm Shane Beamer, I'm happy about this. I'm sitting down there at my new office down at the football facility down there. I look out, I can see Williams-Brice Stadium over there in the distance. See all the student housing that's building up around the stadium. I think this is awesome. Why? Because if you didn't want to be there, go. You end up being a cancer in the locker room. And by the way, Shane Beamer is already an economic success. I've got it right here in my hand, and I'll tell you why. Under Shane Beamer's leadership, remember, if you're the head coach, you're the leader of the football program, you get all credit, you also get all blame. So I give Shane Beamer the credit for this. Mike Bobo has to pay a buyout of $200,000 to the University of South Carolina. Cha-ching. Will Friend has to pay $100,000 to the University of South Carolina for a buyout. Cha-ching. And finally, Tracy Rocker has to pay $100,000 to the University of South Carolina. Once again, cha-ching. Shane Beamer and the leadership down there have gotten $400,000 from coaches that don't want to be there in the middle of a pandemic. That is outstanding, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why anybody in their right mind would be upset about this. If you think that Auburn is poaching coaches, okay, I can buy that. I can buy that. But the reality is that maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. From the outside looking in, you can look at it from two perspectives. One is, wow, that's happening a lot for South Carolina. But the other is, what in the world's going on with Auburn? Wait, you're telling me you want all these coaches from this 2-8 team? Get out of here. Coach Harsin from Boise State, he's definitely making some waves. Now, you don't know until these guys get into the mix and they can get their stuff implemented, etc. But I'm talking about from what they did at South Carolina. But I was also in the camp of, if you're going to have a clean sweep of everyone, you might as well get rid of everyone. Keep a few folks here and there. Keep a few folks here and there, but Tom with a great comment online. They might as well hire Muschamp at this rate. On Twitter, the tweet of the day that I retweeted at Rob Sounds Good was from at VZR Sports Bell. And she said, somebody tell Auburn I've got leftovers in the fridge if they want that too. Yeah, on fire with that comment. What else can Auburn take from South Carolina? Offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, defensive line coach, reportedly 5-star quarterback prospect. I mean, do they want to be South Carolina West? That's kind of where they're at. Shout out to Teddy Hefner, switching gears here for just a second. He just tweeted at the Teddy Hefner, South Carolina and Clemson playing early in baseball, February 26th, 27th, and 28th. So get your Gamecock matchup early on the baseball field when it's cold outside, ladies and gentlemen. So shout out to Teddy Hefner for putting that out there. Listen to him every day from 9 to noon. All right, we'll take your calls on this at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown. I want to bring up one other thing really quick here, too. I said today we were going to talk about teams that could challenge the cream of the crop in college football right now, and that being Alabama and Clemson. And we're going to get to that in a moment. But there is another coach that may be on the move. You know, we were talking yesterday, and a caller called and asked about Deuce Staley possibly being in the mix to take over for the Philadelphia Eagles. There was a tweet earlier, and I'm making sure I've got it here. Let me make sure I give you the exact wording from it. About former football coach Zach Smith, of course, for his silliness that he did in his time. But he tweeted out who replaces Ryan Day at Ohio State. So I look at that. John Clark is the original tweeter for this. And, of course, he's from NBC Sports Philadelphia. And he said, I'm told a name to keep your eye on with the Eagles coaching search. Eagles are interested in Ohio State coach Ryan Day. He was the Eagles quarterback coach in 2015. Does anybody think that Ryan Day is going to move and make the move to be the head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles? You got a cush job up there at Ohio State. I mean, you know, you play in the Big Ten. The Big Ten sucks. Just saying. Why not stay at the Big Ten? But, hey, if you want to go dip your feet in the pros, this may be the opportunity for him. I will give Ryan Day credit for this. He had a lot of guys that were out for that matchup with Alabama. Now, I'm not saying if they had their entire team that they would have been better off. And the score would have been different because I think Alabama was just better than that. Okay. But he did not once talk about COVID this, COVID that. We've got guys here. We've got guys there. None of that. So I respect Ryan Day for that. Out to the phones we go. Here we go. And welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Rob. It's Ray. How you doing today?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I got to call in about this Tracy Rocker thing.
Are you upset about it? Because goodness. You shouldn't be, because you're getting, I mean, Shane Beamer's got $400,000 back in the middle of a pandemic. Somebody needs to buy him a steak dinner.
No, I agree. No. I'm happy about it. This is where I'm going with this.
Sure.
So Tracy Rocker was, he won the Outland Trophy winner back in the 80s. Just an unbelievable football player. Was part of those great Atlanta Falcon defenses. He has coached all over the place. I think he's going home for the third time as a coach. He has coached at he's had 6 different stops in the SEC.
Yeah.
If he is not the quintessential SEC retread, I don't know who is.
Well, maybe he was upset with the retread line from someone in the coaching interviews the other day. Maybe
Well, you know
maybe they
what?
were upset about that. I don't know.
Take $100,000 of the money we're recouping back and give it to them. Because I thought that was the greatest comment I've ever heard. I mean, I wanted a new staff. I think we got 2 left. If they work out, great. Whatever. But I'm glad the guy's gone. I really am. And he maybe he's a good coach. I'm sure he's a great person. He's got a probably getting ready to sign tens of millions of dollars as a baseball pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you be? You spent all that time in the NFL. You made all this money as a retread, and you got a son that's getting ready to break the bank. You're not. I mean, as a person, you can be so comfortable. You're not going to be hungry to get out there and develop players and hit the recruiting trail. And Tracy Rocker, he's my age. He's probably right at 50 or a little over 50. So, I mean, I'm glad, and I hope we get a guy who's like 35. I really do.
Well, hey, I appreciate your call on that, man. I think you're 100% right. So thanks for calling the show.
Thanks.
All right, there you go. Well, that's the other thing too. The comment, I think it was it Coach Gray or Coach White? I'm sorry, that said, yeah, we're not going to be a bunch of SEC retreads. If I'm wrong on that, I'm sorry. I got to look back at who exactly said it. But Auburn, on the other hand, is basically a coaching staff full of SEC retreads led by a Mountain West coach. I'm sorry. That's what you are, Auburn. That's not that far-fetched, ladies and gentlemen. Tom asked my thoughts on Torian Gray. Torian Gray got the seal of approval from DJ Swearinger, and he said in a tweet that Torian Gray taught him how to play defense from the neck up as far as being a defensive back. I think Torian Gray is going to be a lights-out hire. And to be completely honest with you, just from the stuff that I've read about all of Shane Beamer's hires, and I know that you're supposed to wait until they get in here and they do something, but Shane Beamer, in his 1 month that he's been here, he's completely dominated as far as the press conferences and everything else. You didn't go to his press conferences and think, oh, this is a Will Muschamp type press conference where it's us against you, as you as being the fans, you as being the media, etc. All right, that's how Will Muschamp press conferences ended up. Okay. On the other hand, with Beamer, it's like, yeah, he just comes out and he just talks about what he's doing. I don't see, I think that's great. Looks like he's hit a home run there. And then if you look at the guys that he's brought in, I really like the new defensive coordinator hire simply because of the system that he runs in the 4-2-5. I think that's something that's going to be really beneficial there for the Gamecocks. And you can recruit to that. And you have an actual base. Then you can go from there. So I like that. As far as the new offensive coordinator goes, I mean, he's been a coordinator all over the place, been in the pros. So he understands the young men that are going to be there. He understands how to deal with athletes. I mean, what else do you want? Shane Beamer's been lights out, and he's got $400,000 coming back to the university. Just saying, in buyouts for guys that don't want to be there. I wonder if maybe, and since Shane Beamer's not going to be on the show, he's welcome to come on the show. There's always a seat here for Shane Beamer if he wants to come in. Okay, if you're down there listening in the football offices and you'd like to come on the show, our office is currently under COVID protocol. Reach out to me on Twitter. I'll be waiting at you on the door, and you can come on in whenever you want. Okay? And you can put out whatever it is you want to put out about the South Carolina program. Don't have a problem with that. But wouldn't it be great if Beamer had some closed-door meetings with some of these folks and said, look, we're going to do things this way. And they were like, yeah, not so much. Or maybe it came down to money, and they're just like, all right, we're just going to go to Auburn. Now, let's make sure we understand this too. I'm pretty sure Auburn is paying all of this money back. So if South Carolina has Auburn on their schedule, which I think they were supposed to, but they may change it, I don't know how that's going to work out. But look at it this way. If you're upset with Auburn, just remember they're writing you a $400,000 check for 3 coaches that didn't want to be here. You should thank them too. We'll send them some holiday meats at Christmas time. Ingenbare, according to Tom, says, had a nice quote on saying, be the change. Yeah. the South Carolina defense wasn't good. Bringing these new guys in makes a lot of sense. 803-978-1832. And then Ryan Day, if he's going to the Philadelphia Eagles, Ohio State needs a new head coach. Wonder who's going to end up there. They're not going to hire someone we've never heard of. That's not going to happen. Bronzy says, how do you feel about the quarterback decommitting from South Carolina? 16 and 17-year-old kids change their minds every day. And I'm blessed to have an 18-year-old niece who changes her mind all the time, and I'm used to it. Love her like she's my child, but she changes her mind all the time. Nobody knows what in the world they want at 16, 17 years old. We're just trying to figure it out. We're just hoping that people like us. I mean, that's pretty much what everybody wanted when they were 16 or 17. Does the hot girl down the hall like me? That's what I wanted to know. Just saying. SEC Dog with a comment. Rob, do you think that Gunner Stockton will go to Auburn? I absolutely do. Several reports on the 247 Sports website have the same thing. So it's not like I'm going out on a limb there. But if you look at his tweet, he said, I committed to Coach Muschamp and the coaching staff at South Carolina, and a lot of things have changed since then. So I've opened up my recruiting. That to me is teenage boy for saying I'm going to Auburn. Now, on the other hand, maybe there are some folks down at Georgia that want this guy, and he sees what's going on at Georgia, and he thinks, all right, maybe I can go there. Or maybe he thinks that Bo Nix is not really that good, and I can go in and beat him out. Maybe it's that too. Cade Got Game says, I just hope that Jordan Birch, Ingingbare, and Pickens don't go into the transfer portal with that buyout. So you're thinking that there may be more defensive players that may go with Tracy Rocker. Once again, it comes back to the same thing for me, man. If they don't want to be there, see you later. And that's for any program. Whether you're a Georgia Bulldog, South Carolina Gamecock, Clemson Tiger, doesn't matter. Don't be a cancer in the locker room. If you don't want to be there, get out. I learned that from my buddy down the hall, who will remain nameless. When you sign your own gig, you got to deal with your own gig. And if you have an opportunity to get a better gig, don't stay and poison the one that you got. With the people that are around you at the one that you've got. There's the term I want. SEC Dog and I agree on something. Bo Nix is awful. That's a fact. Exactly. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, who is going to challenge Clemson and Alabama? Pretty much Alabama and then Clemson, because let's be honest, Alabama's a little bit above Clemson. There was talk after the 2018 season that maybe Clemson was even with Alabama. They're not. All right, it's Alabama and then a step down a little bit and then Clemson. And then you could start talking about other teams. But who's going to be that team that comes out of that crab pot and reaches the level of Clemson, Alabama, etc.? We're going to talk about that when we come back. Of course, you're welcome to join the show at 803-978-1832. Full write-up on Tracy Rocker on my blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com. Also, some comments Nick Saban made about losses that haunt him. That's up on the blog page as well, foxsportsradio1400.com. I've also posted them on Facebook, Twitter, etc. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Take a quick break. When we come back, we will get into who can take over the top spot at the King of the Mountain, at the very top of the college football world. Who's got what it takes? More of the rundown in just a moment on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Let's see here. Florida needs a QB. That's right, Justin. I agree with that. I'd rather lose Muschamp to lose Gunner than keep Muschamp to keep Gunner. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm wondering, they're going to have the lines out for that game eventually, man. With the Georgia Clemson game, I wonder what the line in Las Vegas is going to be. I'm thinking it's going to be maybe 4 or 5. 4 or 5. I don't know who the favorite's going to be, but I think it's going to be a 4 or 5 point spread. Maybe then it'll be 3, you know. We'll see how that works. Look, that's I'm not people can razz me about this, but the toughest game that Clemson will play on their schedule next season is the Georgia game. Sorry, when you look at the out of conference schedule for Clemson, nothing to write home about. Nothing to write home about. If you look at Clemson's schedule next season, and I laugh at it because I looked at it and I was like, well, surely it'll be a little bit different. Surely it'll be a little bit different. Yeah, not so much. Yeah, I think the Gamecocks can get 6 wins. By the way, I'm doing some research on the transfer portal, and I'm looking through there to figure out who would be a good fit for South Carolina. I've got that coming up too. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. Lots of folks are already looking forward to next season. Georgia fans claiming that Clemson will lose the opener against Georgia up in Charlotte. Some one Alabama fan says Clemson will win that game. By the way, I was looking at the projected, the teams that are on Clemson's schedule for next season. Normally you have the ups and downs of a season where, you'll have a game here and then you ramp up and then a game down and ramp back up, etc. With Clemson, it's like Thunder Road at Carowinds. It's all at the top with Georgia at the beginning of the season for Clemson. The rest of the season, not so much. You got SC State, UConn, and going on the road at South Carolina. And I don't know if they're going to flip it and play at death. That doesn't matter. Either way, the rest of the schedule: Boston College, Florida State at home, Georgia Tech at home, Wake Forest at home. Road games at Wake, Louisville, NC State, Pitt, and Syracuse. The toughest game on the Clemson schedule is the Georgia game next season. And barring a hiccup, Clemson should go undefeated if they can get past Georgia. Some comments from the chat room about that game is we're looking way ahead here. Clemson losing ETN, the number 1 pick, and Bama losing their entire offense. To put them 1-2 in preseason is okay with me. We'll see what happens. Of course, that's the resident Bulldog fan, SEC dog there. No doubt we'll beat Clemson. We don't have to put scores up in weight room either like OSU did. Oof. No, you should just put 1980 up in your locker room, the last time you won a national title, which, by the way, one of the teams that I have in the mix that should be clawing at the crab pot here to come up and be at the top with Clemson and Alabama and Clemson, however you want to put it. We should start with Alabama because they're the national champion. Alabama and then Clemson has to be Georgia. Georgia has that number 1 ranked recruiting class, it seems like every season. They're in the top 3. Now, they've had issues with Kirby Smart not getting the quarterback situation right, and hopefully he'll figure that out. But the reality is that Georgia should be a team that's in the mix. I did find something interesting, though, the other day, or actually a little bit earlier today, and I posted about this on the blog page. Go and check that out. This is Nick Saban after the game with Ohio State the other night. And he talked about the losses that haunt him. And this kind of stuck out to me a little bit. Check out this comment.
Well, you've heard me say before, I hate to lose, and I don't care how much you win, you still hate to lose. Yeah. And you can talk about the 7 that we won, but the 2 that haunt me are the 2 that we lost. And don't ask me why it's that way. I have a lot of pride in performance and want to try to do the best I possibly can.
That's Nick Saban, the greatest coach in college football right now. You could argue he's the greatest coach of all time. And what he just said was point blank, the losses that haunt him are not the losses in the SEC. It's not the loss to LSU at home last season. It's not that. The year that LSU wins the national title. Not any of those losses. Not the loss to Louisiana Monroe, the first year he's with the program. The 2 losses that bother him the most are to the team that the SEC apologists despise the most, and that would be the Clemson Tigers. I didn't say it. The greatest coach of all time said it. So don't get mad at me. You can send your hate tweets to me at Rob Sounds Good, or you can call at 803-978-1832. I'll be happy to take those calls on that. But just to play it one more time so everybody can hear it, once again, the coach says the losses that he remembers are the losses to the team from the upstate.
Well, you've heard me say before, I hate to lose, and I don't care how much you win, you still hate to lose. Yeah. And you can talk about the 7 that we won, but the 2 that haunt me are the 2 that we lost. And don't ask me why it's that way. I have a lot of pride in performance and want to try to do the best I possibly can.
Nick Saban, the coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide there. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Also, the teams that can actually get out of the mix, because everybody's down there in that whole crab pot theory. You know, you grab a crab out of the crab pot, the other crabs are pulling them down. Who can be the crab that gets out? The Georgia Bulldogs should be. They've got the talent. They've got the money as far as facilities and everything else. The only thing that seems to be stopping them is coaching, in my opinion. That's one team. Now, if you look at some other teams, I like Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. He seems to be able to get quarterbacks there, and he is definitely a quarterback whisperer. That's the term that I've heard several people say with him. Maybe it's Oklahoma in the Big 12. What are some other teams? 803-978-1832. Do not come at me with the Florida Gators. That is a team that is absolutely in rebuild mode, in my opinion. That, and the more and more I see Dan Mullen, the more and more I just think, my goodness, this guy's out of his gourd. He just says things, and it's like, are you drinking, sir? That's kind of the vibe that I get with Dan Mullen. G Bama Boy says Georgia's the 2021 off-season champs. That's harsh. Absolutely harsh. But you also have in the mix, could Ryan Day be leaving and going to the NFL to coach the Eagles? Maybe that's the trick there too. What if it's Lincoln Riley, though, that leaves? And they try to do with him what they did with Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech, of course, moving him to he ends up at Arizona. Bronzy asked online, do you think Indiana can challenge Ohio State next year? I've got to do my research on Indiana, but you know, the Big Ten, I'm waiting on Penn State. It's like I'm sitting here, you know, like I'm the thinker. Just Penn State should be able to compete at a high level. They get good recruiting classes. Coach James Franklin's a good coach. He always seems to rally the troops, but they end up wilting when it comes to November. So maybe that's the team, one of the teams that we didn't think about that could be in the mix. If we pick a team from the SEC, I think we're going to go with Georgia. From the Big Ten, you got to go with Penn State. From the ACC, I mean, North Carolina returns 10 of their 11 starters on defense next season. Maybe they're the team that could jump up and bite somebody. There's lots of folks on that are putting out their not too early top 25s that really like North Carolina have them at like 8th or 9th in their polls. And I'm like, yeah, Sam Howell's great. But that 11th guy that they lost on their defense was Chaz Surratt, who was basically an All-American. So, yeah, that's going to hurt. Southern Cal had a good class, of course, getting Corey Foreman to join them. I don't know how that's going to work out for them. We'll see. But in the Pac-12, I mean, you got to look at Oregon. Maybe they're a team that can do something. It's really hard when you really stop and think about it, and you have the mentality of who's next. Who's going to be that team that's going to make the jump and challenge basically the two teams at the top with Alabama and Clemson? Because right now it seems like it's almost like a 2-race show. Or what is a 2-horse race? There we go. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the Rundown, you're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Hey, you're not offending me. I mean, I remember North Carolina from the Larry Fedora days and how they were constantly shoved down our throat. I went to ACC Kickoff, which is like SEC media days, and I remember Fedora up there running his mouth about North Carolina this and North Carolina that, and we're this and we're that. And I'm like, what are you doing? Are you serious? They ended up finishing, 3-8 that year? Something like that? 3, I don't remember. They were terrible. I did not know that there, Ron. Clemson's right below Alabama, sir. I hate to break that to you, man. I'm just wondering who's next. How about Clemson has top recruiting classes? Clemson has a 5-star quarterback. Clemson's got, 4 guys on the defensive line that are projected to be first-round draft picks. I mean, we can go on and on and on. Just saying. And Clemson's been to the top. They know what it's like. Kirby Smart hasn't. You think Ugunglele is going to be terrible? You want to go on record with that there, SEC dog? He'll have a better season than Daniels or whatever quarterback Kirby Smart puts out there. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. We're looking at teams that could be in the mix for next season to possibly reach that next level, reach that Alabama level, or reach the level right below Alabama at Clemson. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. We've mentioned Oklahoma. Can Georgia finally get it together under Kirby Smart? Can he get that, what is that thing called? The visor and make it work? Make it work. I don't know. We'll have to see on that. Ohio State, can they return? Even if they don't have Ryan Day, because there's reports that he may go to the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll have to see on that. Of course, they're going to have to break in a new quarterback. Also, North Carolina, maybe they're in the mix. We talked about them. Of the teams we've mentioned, when you look at the top here, Alabama, of course, is the team that are they going to have Mac Jones back, or are they going to go with the young man Bryce Young that everybody loves? I remember Tyler Crowder, a guest on the show, thought that at the beginning of the season, I don't want to tease him too much about it, but he said that he thought that Young was going to beat out Mac Jones for that starting spot. Jones ended up taking it and finishing, third or fourth in the Heisman race. So there's that. But all these other teams that I've talked about, what do they have? Oklahoma's got Spencer Rattler. Clemson's got the highly touted DJ Uiagalelei. Georgia, of course, has JT Daniels, even though they thought he was a third stringer. I don't know. Out to the phones we go. 803-978-1832. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Good, man. What you got for the show?
Hey, I was wanting to talk about Georgia for a minute. It seems like I want to see Georgia win, but it's like they always find a way to upset me. They always find a way to blow up games, no matter how good their defense is, no matter how good they recruit. It just seems like they blow everything up in everybody's faces. You've seen it with the Alabama game. You've seen it with the LSU game in the SEC championship. I don't know what it is. It just seems like they don't want to win the big games.
Well, you have to come over that hump. I mean, every team goes with that, but Georgia has the talent is the whole point that I've got here. I mean, this past season, they had the number one roster in the country, according to 247 Sports composite rankings there. So they have the talent. Maybe there's a mentality there. I don't know. So that's something that they've got to work out.
I mean, I don't know if it's the coaching or what, but it seems like they can always get to the SEC championship, but they don't win it.
Yeah. That's something that Georgia's going to have to break there. They're going to have to get over that hump of, hey, we're going to win, but then win it consistently. The C word is the hardest part. Getting there once is easy. Remember, Michigan State has an appearance in the CFP, but going consistently is what makes you a great program. Anything else, buddy?
And another thing, how do you feel DJ's going to do this year?
Well, we don't have much to judge him on other than the game he had against Notre Dame, but the game against Notre Dame, he went into Notre Dame and threw for more yards than any opponent has ever thrown with Notre Dame. Now, granted, he played behind Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be the first pick in the draft. So you have that too. But I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he seems to. You remember the Boston College game? He was out there and he made plays. So he's got more time this spring to get himself squared away, and I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country next year.
And another thing I want to add real quick before you go off is I feel like they gave. This is just my personal opinion. I feel like Clemson recruited a little bit better for DJ. You know what I mean? Because they got better recruits. They're getting crazy talent. They got the number one tight end. I don't know if he's going to do anything, but they're just recruiting better players.
Here on the Rundown this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. But getting back to what I was talking about earlier, the players that we were all talking about there for a moment, as far as with those teams, all have great quarterbacks. And it seems like in the CFP era, you really have to have that. Sorry to for the drop off there in the sound. I forgot to plug up my computer. We're good to go now. Anyway, the big thing though is that all of those teams have good quarterbacks, and that's one of the things that if you watch JT Daniels with Georgia, he really seems to have his stuff together. I mean, I think that going into next season, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. And I think you got to have that if you're going to plan to compete with the top level teams there. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown. Lots of teams that have that quarterback in the mix there. But that's set. Now, Ohio State, I think Justin Fields is going to go to the pros, so that may put them out of the mix here. We'll have to see how that goes. And then we go from there. You know, something that I've seen, though, and I think a lot of folks will agree with me, when you look at a lot of these way too early top 25s, they consistently have Notre Dame in the mix. And I think that every year is like, okay. Notre Dame, and we've kind of talked about this before, they've got to join a conference. I truly believe that. The idea, we have our rivalries that we have to have. No disrespect to the service academies, but calm down. Calm down with all that. 803-978-1832. Some of the stuff in the chat room here. People are going back and forth about Tua Tagovailoa. We'll see how that works out. Is he going to get traded? You know, that Colin Cowherd was talking about that earlier about Miami might be the fit for Deshaun Watson. That would be interesting. Have Deshaun Watson down in Miami. Why not? If he doesn't want, and it's the same thing. I feel the same way about Watson too, man. If you don't want to be there, don't go. Or don't stay. G Bama Boy says Notre Dame is a good problem, but they are not up to par at the skill position like receiver. Yeah. I also think Notre Dame struggles with the pass rush. They don't really win games with their defensive line, in my opinion. Let me get Aiden Thomas on, our Notre Dame insider, to talk a little bit about that. And he's adamant that Notre Dame can compete at the highest level, but it seems like Notre Dame consistently falls short. So there's that. But putting Notre Dame in the mix for next year, I'm not necessarily sure I'm buying that. Could it be Texas A&M? Texas A&M finished with one loss this season to the number one team in the country. Could it be LSU coming back? That would be interesting too. Out to the phones we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the rundown.
Rob, it's Bobby and KC.
Bobby, what's up, buddy?
Hey, you just brought up the whole Deshaun Watson and Miami Dolphins and Tua thing.
Mm-hmm.
Today on your national shows, and I'll name one, and Colin Cowherd brought it up on your station, the Fox iHeartRadio. He's saying that the Miami Dolphin players are backing Tua, and if they dare trade him for Watson, there's going to be big trouble. That they're all going to be upset with management for not letting Tua stay and get a better chance.
Well, I get that, but I mean, if you just look, and Tua hasn't had a lot of time to make his mark yet. But if you're telling me I can have Deshaun Watson or Tua Tagovailoa, I've already seen that Deshaun Watson can do it in the pros. I'm going to take Watson. So if they like winning down there, maybe that's what they should look at. Now, if they want to continue to rebuild and be, 8-8, 9-7 until they can get Tua right, then hey, stick with Tua. No problem.
Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. It's cause and effect. Because if they pull Tua out of there, how long? And the players had a lot of discontent. How long is it to weed out the players that won't accept Watson as being their leader because they didn't give Tua the time? That's cause and effect. Or just stick with Tua and hopefully he pans out.
Well, Christian Wilkins is on that team. I'm sure he can snap some guys together and say, "Hey, this guy, I played with him at Clemson. He knows what he's doing." So I don't know. I'm not in that locker room. Maybe they're just backing their guy. Who knows?
It's interesting because one thing Nick Saban said, and I always said Jalen Hurts was the steal of last year's draft.
Right.
Said Tua does not get rid of the ball fast enough. That's why he was injury prone at Alabama and he'll be injury prone at Miami. And he's way too small and slow to run the heck away from the fast defensive players like Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. See, I pretty much keep up on it on Twitter and social media and everything, because I'm from Miami. I'm a big fan of your show.
Well, thank
all
you.
The talk shows up here, the local ones, because I'm a transplantee as of 2001.
Well, there you go.
All right. So
all right,
great
buddy.
show again, Rob. I'll let you go. I know you got callers lined up. Have a great day.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so
All right,
much.
you're welcome.
He's right. He's right about that on one front. The idea that Tagovailoa, though, holds the ball too long, you can work that out of him, in my opinion. I mean, I think he's going to be a great quarterback. I do at some point, but as of right now, if you can get Deshaun Watson at 26 years old, what? I mean, he led the league in passing this year. What more do you want? He threw for 33 touchdowns on a horrible, horrible Houston team. I mean, I'm not sure what else you want with that, but Tagovailoa's numbers, he just needs some more time. I believe that too. But speaking of which, Deshaun Watson's playing on what? On both of his knees, he's had ACL tears. So, I mean, he's had some injury issues too. You never know, man. One hit can change a lot of things. 803-978-1832. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up today's show. This is The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, I don't agree with losing all your picks, but, they're going to have to figure out something. There's definitely a market out there for Watson. We'll see how it goes. The teams that stockpile picks in this year's draft, and they follow the New England Patriots model of, yeah, we're just going to get as many picks as we possibly can. That might be, not saying the Patriots, but one of the teams that could be in the mix. What about the Pittsburgh Steelers? That would be an interesting thing to go and get, because he's got all those young wide receivers there. Who knows? See Deshaun Watson in a Steelers uniform? That would be a mess. What's up? This is The Rundown. So you're all ready to throw in the towel on Jimmy Garoppolo, huh? Man, that's crazy. Went to the Super Bowl last year, but final segment of The Rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. There's going to be a battle for folks that are leading the national shows. It's going to come down to eventually where lots of folks are talking about leaving ESPN to go to Dan Le Batard's show that he's putting together. He's putting together and I don't want to spend too much crazy time on this, but it seems like there's an overbearing in sports where they're trying to push people politically and the way that they politically think, and everything that they put out there is politically this and politically that. I just laugh a little bit when I see some of this stuff that some of these guys that are going with Dan Le Batard have kind of made their names by being people that put out statements on politics that are just out there. Isn't it great that you can listen to? I like the idea of listening to a show where it's just about the sports. I don't really care how the guy voted. I don't care which way he leans. Because the defining thing that we all have is that we all like our teams. You know? I battle every day in the chat room here with SEC Dog about Georgia and Clemson and everything else. Don't know anything about him other than the fact that he is dead set on Georgia's the absolute best football team ever. And he has that mentality, and that's fine. That's his team. When you watch some of this stuff, though, man, just kick back for a minute and just think. It's so much better in life when you listen to sports programs where the people just care about the sports. And that's about it. Anyway, to put that out there for a moment, it's just kind of silly. Silly stuff there. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown this afternoon. Speaking of the Tua Tagovailoa stuff, the report on that was, according to Colin Cowherd, he addressed the recent report that Tua doesn't have the confidence of the entire locker room. After reading off the anonymous grievances, Cowherd admonished the Dolphins for trying to essentially fool their players by putting in Tua over Ryan Fitzpatrick in their crucial Week 17 game against Buffalo. Yeah. You know, they pulled him pretty quick in that game. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But the other end of it too, though, is that where Houston is now, they're a long way from being anything with Deshaun Watson anyway. So look at it from this perspective. They can stick with Deshaun Watson, who's not going to be happy to be there, or they can be like what Bama Boy said and get everybody else's picks. And if they get a Tagovailoa, they can build around what may be a promising quarterback. He's still got a lot of work to do. But then they get everybody's picks too. That could set up Houston for down the road. They have to get over the Bill O'Brien syndrome. The Bill O'Brien now, I think, is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Alabama Crimson Tide, replacing Steve Sarkisian. He was terrible with Houston and some of the moves that he made. Just saying. So they got to get over that and the stuff he did, giving up picks and everything else. You got to deal with that. Anyway, if you want to respond to what we've talked about with that, 803-978-1832. I mean, Houston's got, in my opinion, all the cards here because they've got a star in Deshaun Watson and people want the guy. So there's definitely that. By the way, the Houston Rockets aren't going to let James Harden play with the team anymore until they trade him. Where are they talking about trading him to? Maybe the Sixers? Who knows? That's going to be a mess. We'll see how that goes. Noah says Houston needs to draft a wide receiver. No, sir. Houston needs to draft some defense players. They finished 31st in the NFL in total defense. Everybody scored on them. It was sad. It was crazy. So, yeah, they need more defensive players. Yeah, Watson needs somebody else to help him as far as throwing the ball, but he still led the league in passing this year. They need help on defense. All right. We're going to take a break for 24 hours? They're going to, I have to get out of here so Lawton Swan can do his thing. He's on from 4 to 6 on the vast Clemson Sports Talk Radio Network, heard all over the planet. Seriously. You should follow him at Clemson Sports. He'll have all that stuff out there. Everything you need to know about Clemson, he's got it. Gamecock fans listen to his show. Don't lie. They all love Lawton Swan. Had Gamecock fans call up here and talking about peeking over the fence at the Swan. does his show from Castle Day Swan, way deep in the heart of Lexington, because he's too good to come in here with us working folks. Too good of a show. He's got his own studio built at his house. Still a great program, though. Check out Lawton Swan. He comes up in about 4 minutes here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I will be back at it tomorrow. Full NFL playoff previews. Got some folks that cover the NFC South going to tell us a little bit about that Tampa Bay New Orleans game. We'll get into that as we roll along here through the week. Thank you guys so much for chatting with me for about an hour today. I always appreciate it. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Podcast is up at 5 o'clock. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, you guys rock over there, man. I appreciate you guys checking in on the show every day, man. It's so cool to be able to interact with you over here. So, new Rob and Jackpot show tonight. Jackpot's upset with everybody leaving, so make sure you tune in for that. That's going to be fun tonight. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow.